Hello, I'm Marc, I'm the host of the Channel Chat podcast show, and this is a special series during this COVID crisis where we'll be sharing the learnings, best practices, and failures and successes of all the channel leaders throughout the tech industry. So sit back, listen, and enjoy. It was great to get you on because throughout the Channel Chat podcast show, lots of people have named you as a good guest to get on. So thanks very much for coming on the show and giving me your views. One of the things I wanted to kick off with, really, because as a technology company, I'm guessing you've been able to sort of adapt pretty quickly to the crisis in terms of working from home. But I'm also be interested to find out what challenges you're having in terms of your staff and your customers and what you're seeing from them.
Yeah, okay. So I guess in terms of our strategy overall with COVID-19 and everything that's going on with it, I think the first bit for HP is, of course, the safety of our employees and making sure that we've got the right guidelines in place and making sure that everyone's connected and we're able to stay connected with our channel partners, because if I'm very open about it, the most resilient thing that HP has in its armory is the quality of partnerships that we have out there in the market. And, it's important that we stay committed to that. So, we look at it in terms of, three fundamental areas is, making sure that, from day one, everyone is safe. And we look at all of the, the aspects of employee safety. We look at the way in which we're going to stay connected with partners and customers, which has been, a massive learning curve for us. And if I'm very blunt about it, I've learned a lot from your business, because I think that you demonstrate amazing ways to digitally connect. And if I can take one thing personally out of all of what's going on is just looking at new ways of communicating to partners. And I think the other bit is continually telling our partners and our customers that, we're committed to them, because, this is, a time of uncertainty. No doubt a number of our partners are anxious, and, we've got to reassure them that we're there to support them as well.
Yeah, because I've seen a lot of communications come out from partners in terms of landing pages and rapid communications, of course, based around from working from home. How are you helping them with that sort of communication style? So, i.e., they're obviously they're trying to get stock into the channel, they're trying to get stock into out to their customers, but the supply chain seems to be absolutely broken and fragmented. So, or is it being fixed at the moment now?
Well, I'd certainly, for us, it's not broken and fragmented. Certainly far from it. I think one of the areas that we have looked at, quite seriously is making sure that, at a time when there's a high demand, there's a heightened demand for technology at the moment. Whether it be, of course, many businesses that have had to enable their employees to work from home. I mean, I've seen lots of resellers having to, put together a strategy very, very quickly to allow their salespeople and employees to work from home. And, that expands out across 5 million businesses in the UK that are all considering that. Plus, you've got the critical services, whether it be the health service, the education sector, social services, all demanding a lot of product. And, for us, what it comes down to is leveraging our global supply chain, working closely with our suppliers, making sure that we are predictable and transparent in terms of what we can and cannot do. And I think the other bit locally is actually working with, the distribution network to provide suitable alternatives, because, if demand is high, then we've got to try our best to provide everyone with product that is going to suit their customers' needs.
Yeah, so the collaboration tools that you've got in place at the moment, obviously people are using video conferencing, video like we're using now. How you mentioned earlier that you've learned a new few things. How are you collaborating with your own staff and your own customers via these new collaboration tools? Are you doing conferencing videos all the time, or is it how are you actually collaborating, or is it the good old phone, just getting out and actually getting hold of them?
Well, I mean, certainly for me, what has been amazing, okay, is a couple of years ago. I mean, I work for an American business, and lots of people do in the IT industry. But what I've been fascinated by is, I remember a year or two ago, I was in a meeting and with one of my colleagues in the US, and it was just like the done thing to whack the video camera on. I mean, that's almost not the done thing in kind of good old Britain. And I think, gosh, we've changed massively in the space of 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, no one's afraid to shut the camera on. And no one's afraid to do a bit of fancy dress. I think no one's embarrassed when their kids come in because they're crying or whatever. I've been really encouraged by that. So I think video, definitely has been working. Just making sure that, we theme our communications to our resellers each week. I mean, I'm not talking fancy dress here or anything like that, but, a lot of the big interests have been around, well, for those countries that have seen an uptick in, illness over, a period of time that was before what the UK experienced, how has that affected business with that channel? And so what we try to do is theme some of the messages around what we're seeing in other international markets as well. So, and I certainly see that the guys are doing a lot of training with reseller sales staff. You can still do that even if you're on furlough. The other point as well is of course, the customary, virtual drinks parties and everything else. So, I think we're trying lots of different ways, but every time I see something, I sort of write down, a good idea for digital interaction in the future. Yeah. I don't personally believe everything's going to go to online sales in the IT channel, but I think this is a massive opportunity for all resellers of all shapes and sizes to think about how you digitally interact with your customers, and how we do it as vendors as well, if I'm honest. So, that for me will be a real positive to take away from all of this.
Yeah. Do you think your communication style for your sales guys have changed? I.e., are they? You mentioned about training there. Doing virtual training. Obviously, they can't go into the partners now and do floor walks or whatever they were doing before. But is there communication channels and sort of training and also prospecting, how they're actually trying to get through to new customers and existing customers? Is that changed?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've got a team that are based in Barcelona, which, of course, had a complete lockdown, a couple of weeks before the UK did, and so they're kind of used to virtual working, but actually working in terms of video collaboration was something that hadn't been kind of used intently before. So certainly they're getting used to Zoom and everything that is capable, and of course Teams is another good opportunity to start working with partners on that, changing their style perhaps. Remember, a vendor is also very procedural as well. We have a number of things that we've got to do to work with those resellers to actually get customer orders done. So I don't think the procedures change. I just think the way that you kind of deliver and interact as human beings has changed ever so slightly.
And apart from the sort of the obvious ones in terms of laptops and desktops and home working stuff, have you seen any other sort of demands from partners in terms of technology they're needing and from their customers?
Well, as a personal computing and printer company, the answer will be no. It's all about personal computing and print. But look, I think it's fair to say that that there's a lot of home working and homeschooling that's going on. So anything that is going to give people access to a good interface into the web and other applications has seen, a big uptick in demand. The other things that we see as well is, unlike a lot of other vendors, is that we're a consumer electronics company as well, because of what we do in retail. And it's fascinating when you look at print at home. Then we've got this amazing service that is called Instant Ink, and it's a subscription-based service for consumable cartridges. And of course, there's a lot more homework being printed on printers and business papers and everything else. So we're seeing that kind of subscription model really start to take an uptick in areas that we didn't previously anticipate it would do. So that again is another learning for us that we've got to take out of it.
Yeah. I spoke to Mike Norris from Computer Centre this morning, and he was saying to me that Cisco have just adapted their payment terms to 90-day payment terms. Is there anything that you're doing to be more flexible with your partners, or is there any initiatives that you're doing that you're bringing in for them?
Yeah, there's lots. And we announced a whole sort of package of stuff last week on CRN and other outlets. Certainly being more flexible. Being a little bit more lenient around things like reporting requirements. There's lots of things that we ask our partners to do for us to retain, their accreditations. We're supporting them in that way. And, the other thing is around market, development investments, MDF, as people have would term it in our world. And, just making sure that we're a little bit more tolerant about time that they have to claim for things. And, important aspects like that. A lot of things like payment terms are down to the distributors, to work with their resellers. And, we fully support any flexibility that they want to give.
Yeah, I think it's been a tremendous response from the channel. I know everyone's going on about the NHS, which I think has been great, and it's fantastic. But I've said to many of the sort of the channel companies, I said, look, I think there's a lot of unsung heroes in the tech world that have really tried to keep the economy going and hopefully keep businesses alive, because there's a lot of companies that definitely would have, if the IT channel hadn't moved as quickly as they could, would have gone out of business quicker. And, some might still go out of business, but I think it's been a tremendous effort with that. One thing I wanted to, sorry, go on.
Yeah, well, look, hopefully, that isn't the case. But the channel is a constantly moving. I see it more as a tectonic plate at times. It shifts and changes and adjusts according to markets and market demands. And for those that have been around long enough to see all those changes over time, then this is possibly something that might instigate another change, and albeit for the positive in most other situations that we've seen in years gone by.
Great. Obviously, HP, massive vendor, thousands of staff, etc. One thing that's been a massive topic in the channel over the last 18 months and widely publicised is around well-being, mental health. Now, in this crisis, that anxiety and that mental health is going to be going through the roof at the moment. So have you got any tips for people out there, or tips that you're doing with your own staff about trying to keep in touch and make them aware that there's help at hand, or making sure they're okay, etc.? Because you can feel very, I'm working from home. I do feel quite isolated. I actually live on my own. It's actually quite isolating. But have you got any sort of tips that you're doing, or worldwide that you're doing for HP?
Yeah, we're doing a lot actually, and I'm pleased that you raised the point around kind of mental health and the importance of it, because I think in the early days, when we were thinking about working from home, there was a lot of emphasis on those people that had children. And you think, well, actually, that's everyone. You've got a child anyway. I mean, yes, of course, they're still biting your ankles, whether or not you're in lockdown or not. And someone said to me the other day is that actually it doesn't matter what your situation is. It's just a different kind of hard. I mean, if you live on your own, it's hard for different reasons than if you have 3 kids under the age of 6 like I do. I think that you've got to, as an employer, you've got to respect that there are people of different ages, different stages in life, different family setups, etc. And so, some of the things that we've tried to do is of course identify those people that live at home. I mean, it's keeping closer to them. The other bit is, I know that some of the team I don't do much exercise, so I can't participate in this, but certainly some of the teams are a bit more active. They go out on virtual walks together. And a colleague of mine had a baby the other day, so they were sort of doing virtual baby showers. You're just making sure that there's a feeling of community around. And I think the other bit that I've told everyone is certainly, if you've got family commitments, then for goodness sake, put your out of office on as if you're going to be away from your desk for a couple of hours, and be quite committed around the times that you're not available in the day, because then people start to realize that you're not around from 12 o'clock till 1:30, and therefore they don't book any time in. So keeping close to each other, being innovative about what you do, and just making sure that people feel empowered to make allocations of personal and professional time as if they would do in any normal day or given week.
Yeah, because people, there's no doubt about it. People are going to miss the interaction of the office, whether it's the banter or going out to lunch with friends or whatever it is. There's definitely going to be people missing that interaction, that human interaction. Do you think post-COVID that we'll go back to completely where we were before, or do you think it's going to be a bit of a hybrid of the two, what we're doing?
My personal view is, I mean, I'll be like a greyhound out of the traps. I mean, as soon as that office is open, I'll be back in. I can assure you of that. I love my family, of course, dearly, but of course there is a balance. But the honest answer is I should imagine so, yes, day to day. But I think longer term, I wouldn't profess to be the expert of the channel, but I've been around long enough to see that that there's a new generation of people coming through. I think the fact that we've got 100% of people buying product through a digital interaction at the moment, versus where it was before. I mean, there's got to be some middle ground there, which means that we won't be going back to where we operated before. I think people probably be more tolerant or considerate about traveling on flights and up and down the country on trains and in the cars. Then maybe people will realize there's a slightly more efficient way of doing it and interacting with customers as well.
Yeah, because people's T&E bills now, there's no overnight hotels or flights or travel or train fares or expensive lunches. That's gone out the window. So people are saving money there, that's for sure. And it's funny, most of the partners I've been speaking to and the vendors have almost sort of said, we're going to start questioning now if we've got that one meeting in London. Does it have to be face to face? Can we do it on a video conference? Because by the time you put the train fare in, you either it's a dinner or a lunch or whatever it is, it can turn it maybe an overnight stay. It can turn into quite expensive if you've got a lot of people going on it. I was speaking to, when I spoke to Mike this morning, he was saying to me, about the conferences, and I said, well, look, all the conferences are cancelled now. Is that going to affect business? And he was saying, well, he doesn't think it is. He thinks there was too many of them anyway. But he was giving an example that, 70, he was sending 70 people out onto a conference anyway, an overnight stay. So the actual cost of that has come down. Do you think on that point there about events, do you think there'll be a resistance to do these sort of global big events like InfoSec and all these other stuff?
No, I think, they have a really important role in our industry. I really value the personal time that I spend with many of our channel partners. I know the quality of relationship I have with them at a business level is often driven by people realizing who that person is behind that sort of table in the meeting room and whatever else. And I think that will always be there. I mean, we're humans at the end of the day. I mean, it's we talk for a reason. That's because we like to interact as a kind of species, I suppose. But the same with conferences. I mean, it's quite interesting is that, conferences exist because we like gatherings, mass gatherings, build power, brand power. You get a consistent message across, and you get the focus of people for a defined period of time. And I just don't think that that's likely to change. We're not going to change what we are as people. So we love getting together. I mean, it's the great thing about the channel is you turn up, you walk into the conference center, and you bump into a million people that and I hope that never changes ever.
Yeah. Luckily, the CRN Awards are in November, so that's not been cancelled yet.
Yes.
I was pleased about that. That was for sure. I was thinking, oh no, I can't even get down there now, so it's a shame. I know you're not a world health expert, Neil, but I am interested in what your view is, your own personal view on where we'll come out of this. Do you think we'll be coming out in May, or is it staggered back, or how do you see the sort of next few months panning out?
I would hate to comment directly on that. I mean, I've got relatives of mine that work in the National Health Service, and it's clearly very challenging at the moment. So what I do know is that we will overcome this challenge together, both in terms of communities, and the channel is a great example of the community by which we live and work in. There's no doubt this situation will be with us for some time, whether it be directly or, over the weeks coming. Of course, it's a time we need to look out for each other and do the right thing. I think that's another important point. And, we need to make sure that we're out there for however long this goes on, that, people, don't hesitate to let us know, and the rest of the channel community know how we can help them, because we're here to support, and we're here for as long as this challenge is with us.
That's great. And Neil, my final couple of questions. Obviously, HP, big employer. I don't know how many you furloughed or whatever it is. Are you still looking at talent and bringing on talent, or are you actually on hold? Because I'm seeing two camps here. I'm seeing one camp of channel companies holding, waiting, not sure what we're going to do, but just replacing necessary roles, real key roles, and not looking at talent and developing talent. And then I'm seeing the side of actually, as a company, seeing it as an opportunity to either attract talent, and that might be by companies not looking after their staff, or they've been mistreated during this crisis, or they're actually looking at this company and thinking they're not as agile as I want them to be, they're not as forefront as I want them to be. So HP, are you looking on the recruitment as a talent and bringing people in, or are you sort of in hold mode?
No, I mean, certainly for us, a really good example of this is, there are many of us at HP that started out when we in the company when we were 19, 20 years old. I mean, that was the first ever job. And I'm a person that started out on HP's undergraduate program. In terms of us looking for future talent, that program has been around for some 30, 35 years. In fact, our CEO started as an HP intern. So we will never ever stop that program. I mean, that is the DNA of our business, is going out and finding young, bright, talented men and women, and making sure that we give them a really, really good start for their future careers. Because if you do it early, then you shape the type of personality that then is with you for quite some time. And a couple of months worth of staying at home is certainly not going to stop those kind of programs for us, because if you stop that, you'll look 10 years time will go very, very quickly, and you'll think, oh, why did we stop that? I mean, and then you try and unravel 10 years worth of a problem. There isn't, it's just not even worth thinking about. So, for us, talent development is imperative, and that also applies to developing our own people as well. They've all got careers, and we commit to developing them over the future, because they'll be the managers of tomorrow and the leaders of tomorrow, and we will need that more than ever.
Thanks for joining us and listening to another episode of our Channel Chat podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard and are listening on iTunes, please could you give us a review and subscribe in order to get the newest episodes as soon as they're released. Otherwise, as always, we release an episode every Thursday at midday, so hopefully you can join us then.